Hello, people. We're just waiting for some other people to jump in before we start.
Yeah, hello.
Hey,
JB, I was thinking the same thing, saying your drawings are so awesome. I can't even write letters as good as you. I was thinking the same thing.
I really
No way,
can't.
I'm the worst. I don't think I'm very good at letters. I wish I could like. I worked with a guy at a tattoo shop back at like years ago in Toronto, and he would like hand draw his lettering for people that would come in. He practiced so much; it was phenomenally amazing. It looked like it should be on some scroll. Like
Oh my
he had all these,
god.
yeah, like amazing. Like I can't even describe like just the way the lines flowed that he would do it
Ugh.
is just amazing. Yeah.
It's like the people who can draw, who write calligraphy. Amazing.
Yes, exactly.
I think sometimes it can get too fancy though, because Zach Wienersmith, the guy that does SNBC, his calligraphy for me is almost unreadable, even though it's beautiful when you look at it from afar.
Yeah, they get to mad genius levels and then they just can't relate to anyone anymore.
They're beyond.
I love art.
Oh, this is awesome. All right, Andrew, if you want to get started, feel free. We are here to
Okay,
just
sure.
watch it unfold and
Sounds
be
good.
wildly jealous.
I'm just gonna move my mic. Okay, I'm just gonna do some like future techie person. I was thinking I might sketch out two different ideas quick, and then people can kind of choose what one to keep going with.
That sounds sick.
Okay. So I'll try to talk a bit while I'm doing this, but so if you hear people talking in the background, it's because I'm in a studio, so just bear with me. So if anyone's drawing, you start with shapes, all this is important. This little line here that I'm doing is like, it's where your eyes go. And another one to see where they're looking. Usually you break up an egg. And then you want to start with, I think a lot of people get hung up if they start like, they'll just focus on their head, but you want to lay out the whole thing. And then the other thing you want to think about is always where horizon line is. So I'm going to throw something down here. So that's like where the horizon is going to cut through. Yeah, if I keep talking, it's so you want to do straight lines with curved lines. That's like the old animation style. So this is the inside of an arm, it's straight, and the outside's curved. And you can switch it up to either side, but usually you want to keep one side straight and one side curved. It's really simple. There's a hand. So what I'm doing, a lot of this represents. So this is someone's rib cage. You can't break it after. This is hips. It's kind of like the hip bone's connected to the whatever bone. So this is where you put someone's like underwear. How you think about it. And then from here, you just throw in joints. This is where your hip flexors would be. This would come into there. So I don't know what kind of gun this is or something, or I don't know what it could. You can shoot at anything. Shoots at leyline points. I don't know. This giant super gun.
Shoots out leyline points. Like a t-shirt gun.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh. Could do everything really cool gas masky thing. Get a little background action going here. So usually so if I'm laying at anything it's like this. So you just doing shapes, and even if you want to make a background, more important than what actually the background is what the shapes of the background are. So I want because this is kind of going there. Because this is going this way, I want to draw the eye back this way. So it goes this way. So you're gonna want shapes like I don't know if you be buildings or something, and things going towards the center of the image. You don't want something pointing out, right? So underneath there's some spaceship thing.
Well, there's a reason for South America being rough right now. And I saw it at the beginning. Acedia used to ship to South America. And now
See, then I don't really like how that cuts out. This makes like a tangent here, so I'd erase that. The big thing is never be afraid to race. People that say I can't draw is like you probably just don't erase enough because nothing's ever perfect on the first go.
It's a good life lesson.
Yeah. And then always think about things in 3 sections. So do another layer. So what you want to do on this would be 3 layers. The character here would be kind of the middle. So you want foreground, like a chick part of it. You don't want to cut too much of the feet, but something in the foreground, and then you got middle ground, and then the background to make it different colors. You could have stuff back here. And then you could push it, and then just your brain's easier to recognize 3 different layers instead of trying to break out as many layers as there actually is in the world. So what I would do normally here is you grab all this stuff that you just drew and then knock it all back. And that's your rough skeleton. Spend a little more time just so people can tell exactly what I was thinking. And I'll skip the other one. Should have a big helmet or something. And usually try to draw with a bigger brush than you're going to use later. This stops you from getting too detaily after, but right now I'm just putting in, it's just stacking shapes. That's really what you try to think of, and the horizon line really helps with that because if I throw in a little layer here, everything's going to relate to this horizon line down here. So like this gun kind of thing, it's got to start from the horizon line. So if I grab this line right here, yeah, like this, and that's actually the proper, you can't see, but this would also go back to the horizon line. I'm just going to fudge this side of it just because I can kind of guess it after drawing a lot, but you can kind of figure out how everything's going to relate to the horizon line. So you can even do that with their body. So their rib cage is actually a square. So this would actually be probably going out a little further, but here, here,
20, that
here,
$50 is part of that 60.
right, and then their hip
Yeah, so basically, if you
is this way and locks in like this. So you can see there's two shapes kind of connected together, and this would be shadow, and this is the lower back, and this is the socket your arm fits in. And if you do it enough, then you can just imagine all the stuff without actually drawing on top. But that's the idea. No, I lost my layer.
It's strictly through Pixar. So,
How often do you clean up your layers as you go?
Usually just twice, or I'll do a few different layers. So like usually you want to do like how I have it laid out here with the figure, especially if someone's clothed, right? I want to draw, I would say like 2 or 3 times. So you got the rough, and then you could, if it's like a real finished piece, I'm gonna lay out all the anatomy underneath this. Like here's their arm, right? Here's their tricep. I'm gonna fill in a bicep. And then this is holding a gun up, so this is gonna be flexed, so that this bumps up more. So you get all this stuff in. And that's just studying. But then if it's clothed, I do one more layer on top of that because it's gonna determine how the clothes all kind of hang. It's the same principle as it's a mistake that a lot of people make is if you're drawing a hat, you always should draw their head first and then you draw the hat on top of their head, right? Like this, or else you're gonna make something kind of weird happen. I don't
That
know.
makes too much sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's really just like slowing it down and build on top of shapes, and then it should work out in theory.
I mean, you put the same one.
I want those arms.
Yeah, don't forget those triceps.
And you mentioned earlier that you really like drawing on paper. Do you prefer digital or paper art?
I prefer paper, definitely. It's just for the tactile feel and there's something about the computer that it's good that you can always have the undo button, and that's a great thing, but it's almost better if you don't have the undo button because you're stuck with whatever you did, and it adds that like, I don't know, risk factor. It's a little more exciting to not be able to mess
Spice it
up.
up a little bit.
Yeah, you're like, oh, don't mess it up. Yeah, it's like,
Did you learn on
yeah,
paper or what was
yeah,
kind of your form first? Yeah, paper. Okay.
yeah, definitely paper. Yeah,
Well,
tablets
that
were
makes
around.
me curious because when they teach creative writing, they teach you not to go in with a story already in mind and sort of let it develop itself. Do you have the same approach when you're writing on paper? Do you see like small mistakes as an opportunity to kind of discover something that you didn't intend?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's like the best thing with. I love using ink, and then so that's the best thing about ink. Like something might drip off a brush or like a nib or something when you're inking, and like that little drop might like actually look way better than anything that you'd actually do. Or even like dry brushing stuff gives that like look that you can't just let it do its thing. And then, it looks
That's awesome.
cool. Yeah, it's definitely like a chaos element to it. I won't spend too much time. I was wondering, you're back. The highest point's halfway down, so it's always like here, back out like this.
Yeah, what software are you using?
So it's Clip Studio. A lot of comic book people use it. Seems to be the most popular. It's kind of built for comics, is what the creators had in mind. It does a bunch of stuff now. You can even animate on it and do a lot of stuff, but I think it's just the brushes and how everything's laid out. You can do, it has its own actually like word bubble thing and lettering and everything that you need. So it's pretty good. I like how it runs. It runs like lighter too than Photoshop. Photoshop can get kind of, it's always updating, doing whatever Photoshop stuff is doing. All right, so
And
I'll
are you
just,
using a tablet or using a drawing pad? What kind of hardware are you using for it?
so using a tablet, it's a Huion. So we have a mix of people that do, most people use Cintiqs in here. Just kind of stuck with the Huion for a while. They weren't that great in the past. I would always have to, I would do my pencil sketches and then I'd have to like print it out and then I'd ink it tradition or like with the normal brush. But because they've upgraded their stuff so much, it's actually pretty good. I can actually do finished work on them now, and I would say they're competitors now to the Cintiq army of people.
So I missed it.
So even like this kind of gun or whatever he's holding here, you start off with a simple shape, and then you just build on that. So if you want to make different things on the bottom, just remember the kind of the shapes that it's got, and just build it up. This backlight full shadow. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn these layers off. I'll do one more sketch and then see how far we can get with the phone.
Is this thing on? Testing, testing.
Hello, hello.
Yes, it's on.
Okay, see how this goes. I'm just gonna make more of like an avatar-y kind of picture. Let's see. The really nice thing about the tablet is like a lot of time on paper, I'll run out of room. It's like a classic thing I still end up doing because you don't lay it out properly and you're like, ran out of space.
So, how much of this is pre-visualized in your head versus discovering as you go?
Um, it really depends on the piece. So like I would say like this stuff I'm just kind of messing around. It can kind of come out naturally just with the shapes, but if it's a lot of time I'll have something visualized as much as I can in my head before it's put on paper. It's always, it turns out better if I do, for the most part. Yeah. But there's always an element of kind of surprise, or you can't really get it all perfect in your brain at the first part. So maybe just breaking up shapes into shapes, I guess. So like if this is your front, I'm gonna make this guy kind of like leaning. So they call it the line of action. So you draw like a line from here to here, right? Curve. He's gonna lean back, but your ear holds your balance. So if you draw a straight line down from your ear, his heel should be somewhere down here. And that's usually depending on how you distribute your weight, but your ear is usually your center. So you can look in the mirror and it's you'll be falling over if your heel isn't below your ear somewhere. So some people have like a really clean, I'm kind of like I feel more like a sculptor sometimes. I'm just like going down a ton of lines and I find the thing in there. Some people, I know guys that especially like traditional animators, they just amaze me sometimes. They just throw down the perfect lines right away almost. But I definitely don't work that way.
Do you ever find issues with like trying to get the right amount of pressure, especially with digital art?
Yeah, I find with the digital art it's a little trickier sometimes, but they're pretty good now. I think that's just like a matter of getting used to the actual tool you're using, and the more you use it, then kind of gets better over time. And get in there and mess with all the settings, and let's see whatever works for you. So his elbow, I can tell you right now, I made it too long. So here's something else you can test. So look at your elbow; it's gonna hang down right to where your rib cage ends. So your elbow should probably connect right where the bottom of your rib cage was like this. Then it should actually be here. So I can fix that. So these anatomy tricks that you figure out. This leg probably will come stick out even further. And then keep this line. So this one's more the important leg that's going to get underneath this here.
Which avatar are you doing, Andrew?
I'm just making a new one. If that's all right.
Oh yeah, totally awesome.
Okay, that's no problem. Thinking of a funny. I just had this thing in my head. See if I knock this back again. I was going to make a little kind of funny, like futuristic person, but also with I think like frog hoodie or something on their head. I was trying. Just thinking of. Oh. This is what I was kind of talking about before, just putting clothes on top of your figure that you already have instead of trying to actually just get in there and draw all the stuff right away. It probably won't sit right. So you gotta kind of usually. So I'm gonna make this, if everyone can see, like a tongue. Like some funny googly eyes. Black and green. Did anyone see they released pictures of the new Masters of the Universe cartoon?
What did they?
Yes.
We are
Wait,
loving the
what?
froghead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, where is the Masters of the Universe? Is it on Netflix?
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be Netflix.
How is it? Is it campy?
Like there's just images so far. No, it looks pretty serious. Actually, the one of the artists was this pretty famous comic artist,
Oh,
Eddie Newsend or something. He did all the designs for the show, and he's like, yeah, no, it looks like they're actually treating it pretty seriously.
awesome.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
As long as they don't like Transformers my childhood, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Oh
Kevin Smith.
man,
Kevin- See that?
And
Yeah,
you always
Kevin
have to be
Smith
careful
actually really.
with nostalgia.
Oh, I know.
Oh, Kevin
Yeah.
Smith, though. I trust him.
Yeah, it should be okay.
Wow, and Mark Hamill and Lena Headey as well.
Yeah, big names on the yeah. And Sarah Michelle Gellar is Tila. I think, or something.
Buffy?
Yeah,
Nice.
should be good. Feel like you should have like a water gun or something.
Very on brand.
Super soaker. All right, so here's what what I was saying before has already come true. This arm's too long, and then I've made my canvas too small, so everything's too stumpy. Because this is right here to any artist people out there are interested. From here to here, we grab that. That is halfway on your body. So if we move that down, then you realize his legs are too short. So you can just grab all this stuff at once.
well, to be fair, he is a frog man.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Mm. Almost there. I'm a little short still. Okay, so I'll just add a pond with some frogs. Tree.
I can't believe how just a few squiggles in the background brought it all together.
Thanks. Yeah, use some lily pads. What kind of pants do frog hoodie people wear? Lily pants? All right, what do people think? Should finish this guy or go back to this dude?
I know people were loving the frog head and the googly eyes and everything.
Okay. That's good. That
Agreed.
makes sense. All right, I'm with them.
Yeah, we have a Frog Boy fan club going now.
Nice. Merchandise. You
Exactly.
get
Not
frog
to mention
hoodies.
that gun looks friendlier.
Familiar?
Friendlier.
Gotcha. Yeah. Usually at this point, let's go zoom in a bit. That's fine. So that's just me testing out brush sizes to see what I want. Usually I go for something a little grittier. Lay down the lines. So when you're doing, if anyone draws, like I prefer some harder black outlines and stuff. Just probably I come from comics, so it's naturally that way. But you still think about where light's coming from. So if I make the lighting coming this way, then you'll have a. I'll demonstrate it here with this eyeball, but it'll be a thinner line towards the light. So go this way. You can even leave a little gap like that or something like that because the light's still gonna come this way. So I'll probably thicken up some edges here. It's kind of a mix too of thickening lines that are kind of in front of certain things to create depth as well, but also combined with the light. This is where the serious part kind of starts. We'll see how far I get. This is where everything will slow down to really start getting into the nitty gritty. So I'll often make different layers for different stuff. So just if I'm gonna go and mess with this face now, is that it's pretty blank right now. So I'm going into like a blank canvas. So I might just want to make a new layer. This saves your, nerves if you mess up or do something different, then it doesn't matter.
Do you have any notes for like the best way to kind of nail down facial features? Because they seem so hard.
Yeah, they are. So like this would be kind of, I'll probably clean this up even after. I think the easiest thing to do is just keep it as simple as you can. The face. There's a lot of things going on with the face. That's kind of the problem. Lots of planes. I think of it like a shadow instead of trying to draw the whole thing. So your eyes will usually sit in a thing that will look like this. Think of like sunglasses. And then if this is your nose here, right? This is your eyebrows. This is your mouth. And think of the shadow coming this way. So instead of drawing all this stuff, you could just block in the shadow off the nose, and then your eyes will cast a lot of shadow. So it's usually like drawing and painting is actually drawing and painting light, not so much the actual thing. So you're thinking of a shape, but then you're just putting in the shadows off those shapes. So there's like a little bit of light underneath your lip, and then this is the side of your face here. And this ear might be in shadow if it's really casting a lot of stuff in your neck. So it's still rough, but it's kind of the idea that getting across maybe. A lot of like just think of shadows. You kind of mess with those things. Even on this, like he's gonna be small enough that you can get away with just kind of putting in. Don't really have to get in there and draw the eye. I can kind of just hint at his eyes, make him all squinty or something, and it'll still work out in the end. So usually I'll go through all this with this inking this way, and I'll go back over it one more time and clean everything up if I want it really, really clean.
Somehow I'm already emotionally attached to this avatar.
That's good.
Same. What's your favorite part of the whole process? Is it like the initial sketching? Is it the inking?
I like the yeah, I like the inking, but I like the initial sketch as well. Um, there's like a natural flow that always happens. It's like sketching is really exciting, and then you're like, oh, it's gonna be amazing. And then when you start kind of like where I am right now, that starts dipping, and you're like, oh, maybe it's not as cool. And then as long as you push through that, and then near the end, then when it's all coming back together, you're like, oh, it is cool. Okay,
Well,
good.
we can confirm it's very cool, even at this stage.
And Netflix. Because as natural as artists, we're always comparing ourselves to everyone else that's drawing and stuff. So it's always a natural, you know, kind of, it makes yourself grow. I think you're always looking at stuff and thinking you can get better. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a question I had. Is where do you kind of find your inspiration? Do you look on social media? Are there websites? What kind of drives you?
Yeah, I look at social media is okay. I find it's still like kind of a sea of. I have like the main people I still follow from certain comics and stuff. There's always a lot of artists coming out with some great art books on Kickstarter as well, if you just know where to kind of look around. But I would always recommend too going back to classical paintings even. And there's I forget the name of it right now. I think it might be the Arc resource. I'm sure it'll come up with someone said Arc on Google, but there's Arc Revival, I think. But they actually have super high quality scans of a bunch of like back to Renaissance paintings and all this different stuff. And it's a super awesome resource because you can zoom in, you can actually see almost like you're there. It's the next best thing, really. I think it's important to, even if you're like, I see a lot of kids that are really into manga and stuff these days, and that's all they draw is manga. But even if that's what you're gonna draw, I would say still venture out from that and learn some classical stuff, and it's just gonna help your cartooning or whatever you want to do with it afterwards. It doesn't necessarily have to be just that thing. Especially manga is such a stylized approach that I think the really good manga artists already know a lot of that stuff, and so younger artists are kind of skipping a step that they don't know they're skipping. If that makes sense. So here I'm just thinking about the light is coming from the side, then this underside of the bicep's going to be a little thicker. This back side of the tricep is a kind of a muscle groove that fits in here. The muscle. It's kind of a funny thing with that. It's like I know this muscle exists, but I don't ask me the exact name for it because I can't tell you.
It is very interesting. Did you ever have to like study anatomy to really kind of fine tune your body drawings?
Yeah, big time. I'd pick I'd pick a different body part every day, and then that morning I would do like 20 to 30 studies from anatomy books on that certain one. And at one point I had them all memorized, all the muscles and stuff, but I kind of forgot some of the more obscure names. But yeah, do that every morning and keep going back over every single one every day until you can do them from memory over and over again.
Nice. Which one gave you the hardest time to nail down?
For me still it's like kind of this section here, like your hips where your legs kind of fit in. Sometimes this kind of took a while. And the beyond that, the back is the worst. I think because we don't like stare at people's backs too often. It seems more like
Yeah.
alien, in general.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
muscles back there too.
yeah, and they all fit together. And there's some like really weird ones that only activate when you're doing certain things. So it's that's kind of the next level of the thing. So once you learn them all, then you gotta draw what one's flexing when you're doing whatever certain motions. It's always better to have reference, like even when you know it all. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's still a glove thing. I might add some stuff in this arm, but I'm just getting where it's all fitting in. It's really important to know your center line of where this is going to go. Might actually have another monitor here. I might pull up some frog pictures just for some inspiration. These like frog armor. Mm. You can see here, the more black I add under here, it's going to push the hoodie forward, so it's casting more shadow. Also helpful to tilt things so your lines aren't the same direction. Need to fix this other arm, let's say behind here. So another important thing is, so if I'm going to draw this arm back here, it's kind of weird on my first sketch. I don't like how it is, but if you really helps if you draw underneath. So that's a good thing with the computer. I can go back over this, so I can draw where the socket goes and draw this back and see where this is, and then I'm drawing behind it. So instead of just trying to guess where this comes from, you can actually draw where it is. Oh, this is kind of a step. I don't know what step this is, but this is some part.
Do you ever have a hard time figuring out like feet proportions or height?
Yeah, they're one of the hardest things actually to draw. So, yeah, it all depends on person and the height. Usually, like the size. Kind of eyeball it usually for how long, like how big someone's foot is, because there's some give and take on that. But if I was actually in there drawing all the actual muscles and stuff of the foot, there's a lot in there. So that's one of the hardest ones too. It's a lot easier to break it up into kind of a shape, like so simplifying everything. So you kind of just do this, and then have your toes come out of these here. So you do like sausage toes, and then you gotta get crazy after that. Then this kind of rolls. Let's see, this it fits on top. So this rolls over here and then goes down. It's shorter near the side of your foot, not hides. And your ankle kind of slots into this. If you break up into shapes, like that's the front of your leg, back of your leg, and your heel fits into that. It's a lot easier if you kind of break it up into simpler things to think about.
Yeah, it's so interesting how everything can be broken down into those simple shapes.
Yeah, and then that helps with lighting too. So then if the light's coming from the left, then you know everything facing that side is going to be direct light, and then so you can do shadows on everything. So it's a good really the way to go. Usually, even on this, like if I'm going to color this after or whenever, you do the same thing with the lighting. So you separate everything that's in the shadow, you separate that out, and then everything that's in the light to keep yourself just correct with the lighting. So you can't put any kind of you can't muddle. If you muddle them up too much, it wrecks the form.
Gotcha. Do you find yourself, do you have a harder time drawing like a female figure or a male figure more?
It took more practice to get. They always say that whatever it's like just whatever you are used to looking into the mirror is what you'd be more comfortable looking at or drawing. So I find like females are easier. I find it more comfortable to draw females just from the get go. Like, yeah, it takes a little more practice to get used to drawing females,
That
just
makes
naturally.
sense,
But
yeah.
like guys are so like straight line, like, rigid, usually like boxier, and then it's kind of a not a cliche, but like there's a reason why the masters of the past they draw a lot of women too because they are kind of harder. I found um not just because the forms are so much softer. Like you can't be off or make a mistake at all, or else you'll be in trouble. So
That's really cool.
I recommend if anyone's interested, check out I always want to say Waterhouse. Yeah, Water always make there's Bill Watterson is the Calvin Hobbes guy, but there's another artist, Waterhouse, who did amazing Renaissance paintings. I don't know if they're kind of, I guess it's called pre-Raphaelite. Um, but he did all this like fantasy kind of stuff, like a lot of like knights and princesses and things like that. But his female figures that he draw are amazing. You can tell he kind of had like kind of like a muse in the sense that you can tell a lot of the paintings are the same model or whoever was using. But he's amazing.
Isn't he the one that did that Cleopatra painting of her like lounging on the throne?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
Sounds
I'll
about
have to
right.
go
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, no, it sounds
Yeah,
about
he's
right.
great.
Yeah. He did there's the Lady of Shalott is like probably one of his famous ones. And she's in the boat. And then she's about to
Yeah.
drown herself. Not to be a bomber. Yeah. I'm a big enough fan of his that I found out all the galleries in Europe that have his paintings, and I traveled around to almost all of them, right, just to go see all the originals in person.
Due to shipping, you probably won't order this anyway. Yes. But if the highest cost is $75 for anywhere in Europe, yeah, just charge the dollars for the rate library. Yeah. Yeah.
If we like hands, people have trouble with hands a lot of the time, but it's the exact same thing. Just make a new layer. And then you just want to make a curved kind of shape. Like this again. This way I have to curve this way. This is the top of your hand. And then you just make wedges that fit into that. And this fingers that come over here. And your one finger length split in half is your knuckle, and then the other half is that next joint at the end of your finger. So everything kind of becomes a little mathematical in a sense. Even your thumb will come out of this kind of socket here. You clean that up, and knuckles way on top. If you're ever questioning a drawing and want to know what you're doing right or wrong, I find contour lines are really important. So if you can draw a line over here and know that this goes straight down, and actually dictate a form by drawing lines, then you can't lie to yourself that you actually understand what you're drawing.
So if you're charging whatever it was, 21. Well, it'd be $8. Oh, sorry, $28 for the single one. No, so it's 23 for that, and yeah, it's trying to do 18 for additional. Yeah. So when it's actually only a cost of $33, yeah, as opposed to costing them like $41. So that's not good. So 33 versus 41, you're pocketing like $8. And yeah, but and Kickstarter's to take 10% as well. But
How long did it take you to kind of define your own specific art style?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. So I think it's just a thing of just keep drawing. Like it's just gonna happen that you're just gonna end up drawing the way you draw. And it's totally natural at the beginning. Definitely look at people and like copy as a study. And the more you do that, and then when you stop looking at that person, it's just gonna bleed over into how you draw naturally, um, without you really knowing. Um, and I find if someone really wants to find out like what's my style or how to draw, just go to like a life drawing class or draw something that you see in front of you, and you'll notice that like if someone else does it beside you, it's not going to look like the same thing. Even if you both can draw really well and have all the fundamentals down, then that's your style. Like you're gonna see like there's some rules that can't be broken, um, unless you're super master. But once you have those down and you're just drawing and you know the fundamentals, it's just gonna happen naturally. Can't really fight it, I don't think. I'm pretty good at mimicking a lot of things. I work a lot in animation. I can do like a really cartoony style if I really want to. But there's certain things that I think it's just people have their own certain look to their stuff. It's just because they've done it for so long, and yeah, they sacrificed a lot of time not going out and having fun. Being in a pandemic before there was a pandemic, kind of sit in your
It's
room and
true.
draw. Yeah, I'm just gonna be an emo artsy person and draw it up.
if they order before and we see they message them and say like, "Hey, yeah, that's what I do." But
At this point, I would just. This is kind of like now I'm starting to feel what I want to do, and then normally I'd go back over like the flippers. Might look up some other stuff or what other watery kind of gadgets or something I can add on top of the outfit. Kind of like what's going on here. I can really make this pop with color. See what kind of funny guns you can draw. I find like tech and weapons and stuff like that. You just really look up a lot of reference for that. But for now, I'll just my shapes. Generally, like if you want to make something look not as threatening, then use a lot of round shapes. And like this is like the old adage of I don't know, old cartoon movies or whatever. If you have a sword that's all like jaggedy, you know, it's like a bad guy's sword compared to, you know, a nice sword. Same with trees. If you want a spooky tree, make it all straight lines instead of curves. And then if you want a nice tree, then it's smooth. And
It is
I
interesting how
find
the
it really
subconscious goes
hilarious
on.
that we're that easy to manipulate emotionally.
yeah, yeah. Foolish humans.
for $8.
You always, I honestly, after you learn that kind of stuff, I've always been thinking about making a story that kind of kicks all that kind of trope and start using like jagged lines and stuff for the hero. And I don't know if it would actually like work. People might just be confused, but um, make like a really round, roly poly bad guy. I don't know if I should fight the tried and true method.
The best would be people would go into it not knowing, but their subconscious would automatically assume who is who, and then you could flip the script on them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing I would say. I've tried Cintiqs too, and it's the similar thing. Is there's a flick that you get, and it mimics it pretty good. But there's a certain flick with a brush that sometimes the computer kind of does its own thing on a certain angle that I can't control. Um, but just for time reasons, it's worth sacrificing a little bit, I think.
Into what we need.
Do you tend to lean more towards futuristic material?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. I think it's just like what you're comfortable doing and what you've drawn the most kind of stuff of. So I'm kind of in that like fantasy, anything fantasy sci-fi kind of world is like fun. I've done enough of it. If it's something else, like if I'm not like this thing, I'm just riffing off my own imagination. So if it's anything else, then I'll have to start looking up reference and things like that, or else it just won't be at all believable. Not that this is super realistic, but
So, hearing that, I got to ask: do you draw any characters from any popular books?
I do for commissions quite often. Yeah, like I'm just working on a. Oh, I just finished it. I had to do a White Queen from the X-Men a little while ago as a commission, and I like Spider-Man a lot. I used to draw a lot of that stuff growing up, so.
Do you have a portfolio online anywhere?
Oh yeah. Yeah, just my name, so andrewdorland.com. People can go check out. There's a bunch of comic work on there. Um, anyone's interested to check out. I have a new comic called Ballyskillin that's out. That's has a whole Irish folklore adventure that actually has an app that animates the whole comic. It's pretty cool. photography.
Have you ever drawn at a con, like a comic convention?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been to quite a few of them, and it's always funny when people come up. I think the hardest thing is when someone comes up and asks you to draw some like really stylized like anime comic character as theirs, and then you're like, what are we gonna do with this? It's probably they're so stylized that it's just like, how do you make it your own sometimes? But it's always fun, like to meet people and talk to them, do the whole thing. I haven't been anywhere in the States yet, so that's the next thing.
Holy shit, this work on your page is amazing.
Oh, thanks. Oh, shadow here.
Do you have like a location that you find you're most productive in when you're trying to draw?
Yeah. Yeah. So I worked from home for a long time. It's okay at a certain point, but there's so many distractions. So I'm actually at the Raid Studio in Toronto, and that's like I found that's the best thing. It's actually you can go to work, even though I draw for a living. It still becomes like you need that work life separation. So I might draw at home, but if it be something for fun. So it's a huge benefit, I think, if any, even if you can have a spot in your house and just set it up like this is my separate area for that creativity. I think is really beneficial just for your own brain, or else you're going to be thinking about it too much, or that can be bad for you too. So, and then also being at this studio, I'm surrounded by amazing artists that work for, like, there's guys in here that work for Marvel Comics and DC Comics and stuff like that. So if I have any questions or need to bounce things off of them, then I have an amazing resource right beside me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if, like, if you guys are all working in the same space, if you can go to each other, like, oh, I'm stuck on this, like, I can't figure out how to make this work. If you guys can bounce off each other.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. They
That's
don't ask me,
awesome.
I don't think, as many questions. I will ask them more questions.
I
Yeah.
don't
Like, hey,
believe
why,
that.
yeah, why is this arm all messed up? Yeah. So some of these lines are like too thick, even at this point. So this would be like kind of my rough, I would say my rough kind of stage. And even though I kind of inked it, but in this point, I'd clean everything back up. I'll start throwing some color on this, and then I don't know how long you want to go. I can always, I'll put the finishes touches on it maybe later on, but
Yeah, we can go for as long as you would like to.
okay. I'll just get some general, I'll throw some general color in so people can get a sense of. So something important I'd say is, just if you want to make your life easier coloring some things, is pick like a general tone. Even this green, I should just highlight the whole thing and then work from there. So you're not mixing too many colors. So you can see already like how much that affect the green that I had down, and I'll push that back a bit, but because colors are only relative to other colors, when you're coloring things, it's important to have like I would say get rid of white. Definitely just go with at least a gray in the background.
So on your illustration page, you have a bearded fellow with a sword and an eye patch. Is that from a specific scene, or is that just out of your head?
I think it's just out of my head. Is it? I'm trying to remember what picture it is. Is he kind of a piratey looking dude, or?
He kind of looks to me like a Scottish warrior almost.
Oh, okay,
Curiously,
yes. Oh no, I got you. Yeah, that's from a comic short I did. So it's a little short story for an anthology. People that got the comic that I made Valley Skilling got that as a PDF, but it's gonna be printed in a raid anthology. So the studio I work in, we do like a anthology every year. It's almost every year. And you can always go to that website too if anyone's interested, raid.world. And they have anthology stories. So it's a little short story that will be in the next one. But yeah, he's a fun little story we did. There's a in Irish mythology, there's Tir na Nog. I don't know if people are
yeah,
familiar, but yeah.
sure.
So he has a little adventure down in Tir na Nog, and uh, it's kind of like a riff on that. That he gets kind of lost down there and uh, lose track loses track of time, having fun and doing cool adventures and fighting cool monsters and stuff, and then returns back to the earth. And I won't spoil the story, but there's a twist when he comes back and has to face his normal life again. That's good.
Well, the detail on this dude is amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, usually on like my illustration work, I would really like to get in there and I do a lot of kind of line work.
Yeah, I should have been in contact with you. I have that to my school. Yeah. So you can find us now. Like a phone book or something.
I feel like this guy needs earrings. Not too sure. Big hoop earrings.
Of course. Yeah, yeah.
On a side note, I've been watching a lot of Billy
Yeah,
Idol
yeah.
videos, and I
Yeah.
want to bring back the '80s one earring, the big dangly cross or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's the look. I love it.
I know. I don't know if I can rock it.
Yeah.
I can always try.
Oh my gosh,
I
no,
had my
do
ear,
it.
I had my ears pierced, but I have to see if the holes are still open or not. Okay.
Okay, I mean, she's running around there, so she's a busy lady. I'll let her know that you're trying to get a hold of her. Okay, you're quite welcome. Okay.
The same tattoo shop I worked at, the piercer, we were bored one time. I wanted to get my ears pierced, but he decided that I wanted like the big hoops, but normally they wouldn't do them at that size right away. But
Oh,
I was like, oh,
gauges?
it's fine. Yeah, so he did like giant
You went
gauges in my
straight
ears
to
right away.
gauge.
Yeah, it was like kind of like a half operation. I won't get into detail. It was pretty gross.
I can't believe you
So
did that.
I almost passed out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually like a very like step-by-step process.
Yeah, not to get too graphic, but yeah, there was enough skin that you had to use a scalpel to remove the excess part that was like off the back.
Oh my god.
Well, I guess nobody can question your commitment.
Yeah, yeah. I was young enough. I didn't really think it through, you know.
So you tattoo also.
I used to, yeah. I did the apprentice thing for a while, and then I just kind of I still love it, but I kind of just realized I really like stories more. So like, there's some aspect of a story, I guess, with everyone's tattoos, but I just felt like after I was there for a while that I really wanted to get into something that told more of a story.
Can you do a Leyline tattoo? Just kidding.
I could.
True dedication there.
Once you come up to Canada, you
I
can
was
make
gonna
it
say
happen.
Leyline retreat. Andrew's gonna tattoo everybody.
Yeah, totally.
know about you guys, but in high school, I had a friend. Oh, this is like the artist people I hung out with, but he became a tattoo artist. But at the time, he just bought all the equipment, so he had a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds with a tattoo machine drinking at a party.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a dangerous mix.
There's a lot of kids at my high school that had senior photos with questionable tattoos.
I do that a lot. I know I could just like fill this faster, but I get caught up in like it's actually paper and I want to like color it in like it would be.
I feel like it's almost like a meditative kind of process, though.
Yeah, I think you kind of get just lost in the thing. So it's cool. Must be. So a lot of times they're grabbing colors that are already used on the same piece, then it kind of avoids getting too cluttered. Yeah, I'll just do one more quick layer and then I will say we can probably stop off for that and I'll finish it up for reels after. Just get some lighting, same direction I had the lines. So this time, I'm just wearing a multiply layer over top. This is kind of like usually my test shadow kind of thing. Just using the same color that's already there. And then I'll go and tweak things later, but just kind of breaking out the shapes. And then I lost my background. Okay, let's do it back in. And We'll see how this looks, but usually simpler ways of green is kind of the main tone. Might try to make the lighting the opposite. Something like over here. A little too much. I think I'll go.
I can't believe how fast that quickly changed the entire nature of this thing.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, because then it's going to rotate things, and then I'll knock all this stuff back, so you get a sense of kind of the character and what's going on, and then I'd knock all this stuff back, especially the shadows, because you want sometimes you want more saturation in your shadows than in the light areas. Actually, it's kind of the opposite of what you think. Shadows actually carry more color. Light's usually pretty washed out, so I'd knock a lot of this stuff back, and then go back over and recolor everything. But I think for now, just because it will take me quite a while to actually put all the finishing touches back on, I think we could probably ramp it up here. I could put a signature. There we go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I believe word on the street is that once you finish this, everybody that came tonight is gonna get a drop of this on their profile.
Key lucky.
I'm excited about.
I dare ask.
Very
Awesome.
excited. And what was that, Jamie?
I said OMG.
OMG,
Dude,
indeed.
honestly, this frog boy is like the anime boy of my dreams. Like
I know. I was like, do I have a crush on this frog boy right now?
I swoon.
Yeah,
Good to
thank
hear.
you so much, Andrew. It was so cool seeing your process and like all the tips and everything you gave. It's great. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem. My pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you for spending your
Fine.
evening with us, and I hope the rest of you guys have a wonderful evening as well. And hopefully we can do this again.
Thank you. This
Sure.
was great.
This is great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.